Hello, my name is Charles Pieper. I'm a freelance stop-motion animator, originally from New Jersey, who went to school in Boston, Emerson College for film and animation, and now I live here in California, in Hollywood, and Los Angeles. I've made many stop-motion animated music videos, including the following. Spinny, swoosh, your frown. As a child, I was just as into the horror movies and strange stuff as I was now. In fact, I was a very strange child in that I saw my first R-rated horror movie when I was in kindergarten. It was An American Werewolf in London. I was engrossed, enthralled by them. I loved it. I knew they were fake, and I loved the imagination that went into them, while others would be cringing, freaked out about whatever head just exploded or whoever just turned into a werewolf. I would just sit there and be like, no, it was just a prosthetic, fake head filled with, watermelon rinds and bits of raw meat. My parents were nice enough to let me embrace this weirdness, and from that aspect, I can say I've been going to fan conventions my whole life. Because the first convention I went to was the Fangoria's Weekend of Horrors convention in New York City when I was just in first grade. So there I was, this little 7-year-old kid, tiny body, big head, tiny little critter, wandering around this huge, vast array of, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, grown men, all bearded and goth and grumpy and brr. But here I was, this tiny little kid, loving it, and I was quite the novelty act, I suppose, back then, as were my parents, who were just as into it because I got them into it. They ended up coming around and liking monster movies, and they liked how it got my imagination going, and vice versa. But, here we are in a sea of dark, gothic-y clothing and, really intense people, and they are my parents, my mom in her pastel blues and greens, like, oh, wonderful, and at that first convention, I met my idol, the special effects artist Tom Savini, and that was mind-blowing to me as this young kid. It must have been just as strange for him seeing this little kid come out of the crowd like, I love your fluffy monster under the stairs from Creepshow, and, that led to some strange moments. I had teachers who didn't know what to make of me. I had a teacher who brought me up to the front of the class to denounce me, to say I was a bad writer because I was writing monster movie adaptations, even down to putting a little rated R on the bottom of each page. So she brought me up to the class saying, this is a bad writer, and because of that you can only write, and she rips open the drawer, on the yellow paper, and it was this piss yellow paper that, only the bad writers would write on, but not even to spite her, but just because I didn't know any different, I ended up drawing the same weird monsters and the same crazy stuff as I always did, and it drove her nuts. And now I can say, all these years later, I'm 23 now, I'm just as much into monsters and stuff, and now I make my living off of it. And here's where I edit all my animations and short films on my nice little computer with the Doctor Who background, of course. I love Doctor Who just about as much as anything, maybe more. Surrounded by some of my posters, including the Johnny Ryan horror movie poster stickers I got at the last Comic-Con, and there's the big old Jeff Smith bone picture. There's the Faust poster, original from Prague, because I studied animation in Prague through Emerson. But enough about me, you want to find out about the really interesting stuff, which are my puppets. To start with, here is the grotesque intestinal slug monster known as Pinky, which I designed, built, and animated for a short, grotesque horror film in which I also starred, called The Pink Sock, in which I play a poor man who's wasting away and he doesn't know why, and it turns out it's because he has this horrible intestinal slug monster growing inside his innards. At last year's Comic-Con, I walked around with this on my back, such as this, like a pirate would a parrot, and got me a bit of attention. Got to talk with some folks, got a picture of Jonan Vasquez holding it, which made the middle schooler in me so happy. Here you see the biggest puppet I made for the Skidmore Fountain video. This is a very, very large puppet indeed. So large that When I had to drive around to take it to locations, I had to seatbelt it into the passenger's seat. Well, the concept of the music video for this one is that it's sleeping in its cave. This is the cave up in Griffith Park as seen in Season 2 of Twin Peaks. And also it's been in the Batman from back in the day and Star Trek. It's been in everything. It's an awesome little cave. If you haven't been there, I suggest you go. But so pretty much the song wakes this guy up, and in search of the music, he climbs around and ends up kind of lost in downtown Hollywood, kind of Burbanky area, kind of gets a little freaked out and finds his way back. Animating him was, well, it was hard because he was outside and it was a big procedure. I scared some children inadvertently up in the Bronson Cave because, you know, this is about the size of a small child, and, you know, a lot of people go up to the cave to hike or have a picnic, and, you know, the kids come running around, they turn a corner, and there's this big old critter, you know, staring them right in the face, and me hunched over like some maniac, touching it, you know, moving it around frame by frame, you know. There was a couple screams. One family screamed, "El Chupacabra!" And I was like, yeah, this is a hell of a goat sucker. You don't want to get it near any goats. Those goats will be sucked dry of blood. Nothing gross, just blood. That's all the Chupacabra drinks is blood. Get your mind out of the gutter. This is perhaps one of my favorites. I love the glass eyes. What's nice about this is it has a fully movable lip to create some of that Willis O'Brien snarl look, if you know what I mean. And I think you do. With this you get 3 monsters for the price of 1 because you don't just have the big ol' head, but you got the 2 tiny thought monsters popping out, representing the opposing thoughts within our own mind. One is red, one is green for go and stop because I'm into obvious metaphors, and they are the drivers which give conflicting information to the head which does its best to drive around on the rickety wheels it has. Which I think is a very fitting metaphor for all of us, because what are we if not just what our brains tell us? Here is a gutted monster puppet I made from the recent Man's Assassination Man music video, which is right next to my actual octopus in a jar. I call it Mintaroo. It's cute. Here you have a toy of Hedora the Smog Monster next to a monster of my own making. Yeah, I collect art books, anything by Thomas Pynchon. He's my favorite. You know, old books, H.P. Lovecraft, Necronomicon. Where can you go without the Necronomicon? I don't know. Books on Salvador Dali, Sharks for Sale, Edward Gorey. This is all Edward Gorey. He's my favorite artist, a big inspiration to me. Fantagraphics, Beast Books, Tim Hawkinson, David Lynch, Hotwire Comics. Here's the other monster puppet I made. He's a little tall one. He says hello. There's The Blot, Tom Neely. Excellent. Got this at the last Comic-Con. Of course, you got the Chris Ware books, including hardcover first edition of Jimmy Corrigan. I got it at a used book sale. Wowzers. So there you have it. There's a short little introduction to me, my animations, the puppets I've made for them, and my obsessive collecting. I want people to know what I can do. I want my animations to have more of an audience. I feel like I can bring a lot to the table, but I've been searching my whole life to find the right table. And maybe, with this Comic-Con documentary, I found that table. So if you will, let me bring all my weird stuff to the table. I will bring it, and I will make such a centerpiece on this table. I will make it so that it'll be so strange people might not want to eat off the table, but they'll want to watch it. And they'll want to watch me and the strange ideas I can bring. So, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And please, please, stay in touch.